Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservative Colonel podcast. If you are not watching the video version, you're wondering why I sound different. It's because this is not Harrison. He couldn't be with us today. This is Graves Baker back with you here. I'll be the host. Harrison's got a lot of work stuff going on, but we've got me. We've got Sam. He was on the episode 2 weeks ago, and luckily, Harrison, even though he's not here, he's kind enough to send us some things to talk about. He's still doing his research. Very thoughtful of him. But he's allowed us to do this. We're going to try not to ruin everything for him. But, no, I think we got a good episode. You know, Sam's here. He's going to help me. But there's only a couple of things really going on. We're really going to start off with the RFK. There's some other news that's happened, you know, with Kamala Harris and everything. But, Sam, how have you been?
I'll tell you what, Kamala Harris has been a pain in my side and everything else. You know, for the past, month now? She's been in the race about a month anyway, almost a month. Something like that. Ever since,
I think it's 38 days.
Basically almost committed a coup, dropped Biden out. And basically, I think what's boiling down to is that the honeymoon phase for Kamala Harris is kind of crashing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're certainly trying hard to keep her in that honeymoon phase, to keep all the good press, to keep everything there. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But the first thing I think that's really important to talk about is RFK Jr. suspending his campaign. I don't think he formally dropped out of the race. His name still, you know, when he did his press conference, he was going to be on the ballot still in some states, but he's been trying to take his name off the ballot in like swing states. So
they tried to stop him now too. I'm sure you've seen that. They basically said he has to be on the ballot in Wisconsin and Michigan.
The Secretary of State. It's funny enough that RFK has to stay on the ballot whenever that same Secretary of State in Michigan tried kicking Cornel West off the ballot, he's not the Green Party candidate, is he? I don't know which one.
I think that's Jill Stein. I'm really not sure what party he runs as.
He's still he's pulling some stuff away from Kamala Harris, which I'm sure is why they want to take him off the ballot. RFK's pulling away from Trump. That's why they want to keep him on the ballot.
Right.
And I think actually in Wisconsin, they said Jill Stein, has to be on the ballot. I think that's what just happened with her. But so far, and I just read today too, that RFK is on the ballot in Virginia, which Virginia for the past 20 years now has been traditionally a blue state. But I think with them having a Republican governor that the state flipped back in 21 because they do odd year governor's elections.
Just like us.
Yeah, you guys, Mississippi and Louisiana, you guys are in the same years that you guys do your governor's elections.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia's weird just because I don't know if it's the only, I think it might be the only one that does it during that time. Plus, Virginia is the only state where you can be a governor one term at a time. You can't have consecutive terms. So Youngkin can't run again. But if he wants to run again after the next guy, he can.
I did not know that.
It's really weird. It's the only state that does it like that.
That is really weird. You know, I actually almost went up to Virginia earlier. I think I was talking to you about that. We were thinking we might get a contract up there, which I was kind of looking forward to it. I've never been to D.C., weirdly. You know, that whole DMV area that you talk about, I've never been up to any of that. So
D.C. gets a little tiring after a while.
Yeah.
If you're in it every day like I was, man, you know, I a little bit sometimes, but I really like being out just in the DMV in general, man. It's so good out here. But I think with Virginia specifically with RFK, he's definitely going to pull from Trump. Kamala Harris, the last poll that I looked at, she was within the margin of error in Virginia. And I can tell you, certainly being here, I've seen a lot of Trump stuff more than I have anything Harris and Biden and Walz, or even before Biden dropped out, I saw barely anything of it. I've seen more Trump stuff up here, especially now with Youngkin. He cleaned out voter rolls recently, the governor did, and they're doing paper ballots. So Virginia, even though, like I said, it's traditionally been blue for the last, couple decades, on it may be a little bit in play here, for
that would
Trump.
Be cool.
That actually, in Reston, not too far away from me, actually, a Trump office got broken into. Not that long.
Oh gosh!
About a couple weeks ago, it got broken into, and I think they vandalized it a little bit or something like that. Or they smashed the window or something. But yeah,
sounds about right.
But with RFK, he's certainly it's also really funny to me too that he dropped out the week of the DNC and just took over the coverage from the DNC. Like that entire week was all Democrats coming together, partying, celebrating, being happy, woohoo, defend democracy, kill babies, whatever. And then they got completely upstaged by Trump and RFK in the photo of them shaking hands with the fireworks in the background.
Yeah.
Completely legendary. And his running now, would you call her his running mate still, or his former running mate? I don't know what you would call her. Nicole.
Yeah, I guess you could still call her that, but when she was getting interviewed a week before they dropped out, saying that they may drop out and all that, it sounds like, and this is what I hope they end up doing, especially if they're going to try to keep them on the ballot in the swing states, just go ahead and end the whole campaign. That's what I hope they do. They probably won't, but I feel like she's actually for that. Just the way she was talking about, she was saying she wanted to, drop out, not just suspend or only the swing states. She said she wanted to drop out and just form a coalition with Trump. So I like her, but...
Well, I think the most powerful thing about that whole thing is that it's Trump and a Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the craziest thing, is that a Kennedy is joining sides with a Republican, and the Kennedys have been Democrat dynasties for how long?
Yeah, like 60 years.
Yeah, literally. And then, well, because I think RFK maybe tried reaching out to Kamala, but Kamala wanted nothing to do with him.
That's true, yeah.
Wanted anything to do with him now.
Yeah, that's true. I did see that, and I love how another thing that what Kamala and the Democrats are doing is they're using the fact that Kennedy's own family, a lot of them are not endorsing him. They're using it to be like, well, his own family doesn't even like this guy, and then they're doing the whole 200 former people from the Bush administration and stuff like that.
It's all like Bush, Cheney, and Romney officials too, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's all of them. You had Adam Kinzinger speaking at the DNC.
Yeah.
I watched it too. I watched him speak the entire time. He didn't really say anything too interesting. It was just him just bashing Trump. And during that same time too, they had a dance performance or a music performance. And this one actress brought out Kamala Harris's niece, two of her nieces or something like that. To tell people how to say Kamala's name.
Mm-hmm. She's got all those tattoos on her arms and stuff. Well, I mean, I've seen pictures of her before. She dresses like a dove. That girl is weird.
They want to call JD Vance weird. The whole weird thing. It's
it's weird.
Narrative of just call him weird. Call him weird. They probably I guarantee they poll tested it and they're like, oh, weird works. It's the same thing that I think they're going to start doing, because I've seen it a few times, that they started saying Coach Walz instead of Governor Walz. They're going to start calling him Coach Walz, because it's, again, they're trying to make him an everyday, average Joe American. Whenever, I think it was the episode we did together. The guy's a complete lefty. He's a complete lefty stooge, Again.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to episode 27, go back, and there's probably about 30 minutes of the three of us just talking crap about Tim Walz, because there's a lot of stuff to talk crap about.
It's that, and then I don't know that it was a mess. But with RFK specifically, they stole the show after the DNC. Man, no one's even talking about the DNC now.
Mm-mm.
No, at least with the RNC, it was still discussed the week after. But now, no one's talking about the DNC. I don't even know if I've seen too many polls where she's gotten a bump. She should be getting a bump after the DNC. That's where all the hype is. But I've seen really nothing, at least, and it's still certainly within margins of error for polls that I've seen of who's on top and who's not,
And, I think with RFK, I think a lot of people did expect a little bit more, like, in the polls. You really shouldn't have because, again, he's pulling, like, 5% maximum usually anyway. And then you take that into account, he is pulling more votes from Trump. And, that probably will bring some independents over. But maximum you're looking at over the entire country. So it may be smaller in the swing states where that 5% of his stuff was. But you can't really trust the polls and expect a huge jump just from him joining. Now, it did kill the momentum from the Democrats. But realistically, a 2% national, 3% maximum national that Trump's going to get from that. But where are those voters located is what matters. Are they in the swing states or, are they in places like Virginia that may be able to get into play? The RFK thing helped. I think the Tulsi Gabbard thing will also help with independence, but it wasn't just going to
endorse Trump. And that's Trump. I think Trump mentioned that there's either RFK or Tulsi that mentioned that more Democrats are going to start coming out. I don't know.
They did.
I don't know which ones would support them. Democrats, they all stick together. It's not like with a lot of the Republicans, you have the types like Romney and Kissinger and, a few others that are certainly, anti-Trump or never Trump. And then you just have some that are just like, I don't like Trump's personality. They may still vote for him, but they just don't like him. They don't personality, but they'll vote the party line just to help out the down ticket. You know what I mean? And it's a completely different set of rules. Although Kissinger went the whole way with it. With Romney, he's at least retiring a senator. Kissinger, he retired as a congressman from Illinois, and now he's banding with Democrats and CNN.
Yeah, he's
much of a conservative whenever he was in Congress.
No, I really never even heard of him very much until January 6th happened, and he started crying about it all the time, and him and Liz Cheney were on that, and the head of that was Benny Thompson from Mississippi. Already didn't like that guy, but that's even more of a reason to hate him. I won't go on a rant about him on this episode, but probably later. I think maybe Kristen Sinema or Joe Manchin. I mean, who else from that side would? Those are the only two I could think that are somewhat centrist enough.
If you want to talk about the independents, Bernie Sanders won't. That's a fact. Because even though he's technically an independent, he still caucuses with all them. I think there's one more, and I don't know who it is. I don't remember their name. There's one other independent in the Senate that's not Kirsten Sinema or now Joe Manchin. I don't know. But even then, Kirsten Sinema, she's kind of just been staying out of everything, which is good on her anyway. She's going to retire a senator.
Mm-hmm.
That whole race is going to be the Arizona Senate race, man. It's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah.
If you want my opinion on like the winning Senate race, it's Tim Sheehy in Montana. Mm-hmm. I have a very strong feeling Montana will flip to the Republicans for sure.
Which is weird to think that Montana had a Democrat senator anyway.
He's like the last main Democrat in that state. It's the same thing back from where I'm from with Joe. He's the last prominent one.
Mm-hmm.
He's leaving a senator. We're flipping that seat. Jim Just is going to be the next senator.
Wasn't he governor?
He is. He's my governor now. Yeah, he is my governor right now.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
He's also term limited this year, so we have a governor's race going on, which I'm very much a Pat Morrissey guy. So he's our attorney general. He's great. All he's done is just anger the federal government. That's all he's done. That's all he's been doing this entire time, and it's awesome. It's great, and I like the guy.
That's about all you had to say for me to like the guy.
Yeah, no, he's great. But although, like, my congressman tried running with against Justice in the primary, he didn't win. But Riley Moore, who was, I think, going to be our next congressman, he's good. He's a good guy. But anyways, besides from all that, so yesterday was the interview, the first interview since Kamala joined the race, again, almost a month ago. And
still couldn't do it live.
It was pre-taped alongside Tim Walz. So she wasn't even by herself. She was with Tim Walz. And with CNN, of course, with Dana Bash. It was maybe 20 minutes long. Look, I don't want to give too much credit, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Trump, the last 4 interviews he's done have been either close to an hour or over 2 hours. Kamala didn't even do 20 minutes.
Yep.
And that's in pre-taped. They weren't releasing the transcript. The first clip that they showed was her going on a rant about the Green New Deal. She already said in another clip that her stances aren't going to change, or her stances haven't changed, specifically with fracking. In a swing state like Pennsylvania, fracking is a big deal. Yeah. But like back whenever she was a senator, she very much wanted to get, or whenever I think she was first running for VP, she wanted to get rid of fracking, but then she didn't want to get rid of fracking. But now she supports getting rid of fracking. She keeps flopping around everywhere. Maybe, hopefully, trying to see if people don't see one side or the other just as much. They don't see both sides. That's like, oh, but she doesn't want to do fracking. Oh, but she does want to do fracking. And is she just confusing voters that can still vote for her? I don't understand what's happening, because she's flopped on that. She's flopped on the border. Now she wants to build the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now she doesn't want an electric vehicle mandate. Now she doesn't want to tax tips.
Even though she was the deciding vote on the, I don't know if it was the Inflation Reduction Act. It might have been, but
it was.
She was the
IRA, yeah.
And then she even, in that interview, the little parts that I've seen, when she gets asked about I don't even think she was asked about climate change. I think she was asked like what she's going to do on her first day or something, and she just went off on this rant about how the Inflation Reduction Act actually did a lot of stuff for the Green New Deal. They didn't get the whole Green New Deal, but they got parts of it. And I was telling the Democrats at the time, I was like, the name of the act is not what's in it. They're naming it that so it sounds good, but all that did was send more money to Ukraine. I think we sent money to Gaza with that. We accidentally paid the Taliban $239 million. I don't know how you do that. We accidentally pay me $239, I'll be fine. But, they'll never do that. And she just basically admitted that the Inflation Reduction Act was not about reducing inflation at all, which I've been saying the entire time. But she finally admitted it without trying to.
In that bill was reducing inflation. If anything, it only contributed to it because we were printing all this money we didn't have. Yeah. And we have to pay it back.
And they blame it on price gouging. And they want to go out to the grocery stores, which at a maximum have like 3% profit rate. They barely make any profit. Yeah, I think right now it's at like 2.3%. Like on average.
The marginal average, I think, for grocery stores is like 1.4 or 5, and 3 is like, that's great, that's fantastic. And now she wants to tell people what they can or can't charge. And I think I saw another video today that she wants to basically allow censorship on social media.
Of course.
content that's not friendly. But, party of democracy, guys. Party of the champions of freedom.
Oh, and when in that same exact interview, roughly was asked does she regret not, coming forth, being honest about Biden's mental capacity, and she was like, no, I don't have any regrets about that. She doesn't care. And with the price gouging thing, that's basically communism, government controlled, prices and the means of making goods. That is communism. So
that's just the next step of how China, you lease property from the government for China. You don't own your property in China. You just lease it from the government for 70, 80 years, and they can take it away at any time that they so please,
Mm-hmm.
That it's such a slippery slope. Don't forget didn't she want to give like first time home buyers $20K, $25K, something like that as a down payment for a house?
Yeah.
That's loan from the government that you got to pay back to the government.
Yeah, and she was saying it would be like a grant, so you wouldn't have to pay it back. Well, guess what? Every house in America just went up $25,000 before you even implement that. They will do it. If she gets elected and she even starts trying to pass that bill, boom. Every house in America just went up another $25,000 after they've already gone up, I think, like freaking 40% in housing prices in the last 3.5 years. So it's been, for me, watching them lie about everything and switch up on everything. I wish more people saw it the way that we see it. But I've just noticed more and more, even recently, that they don't care. Even if you show them proof. I've had people ask me to show them proof about, that she actually wants to do the price gouging thing, and that some of that $25,000 grant, that'll go to illegals too. She also wants a pathway to citizenship for every illegal that's here, and give them money and free housing, which they already do that. But it just proves again what we've been saying the whole time. They're letting these people across the border so that they can give them citizenship and let them vote. They already are letting them vote, get social security numbers, and they don't care to check their stuff. But we probably have 20 million illegals here, half of which came in the last couple of years, and every single one of them gets to vote. We'll never win an election again, and that's the whole point.
Well, you know what? Along with the legal immigrants and everything, you have a lot of other states implementing laws or advocating now to give them loans for homes.
Mm-hmm.
In the California Senate, they just passed a measure that illegals can get a loan for a home up to $150K. I believe it still has to go back to their house or their assembly or something, and then it goes to Newsom, which they're a supermajority. It's gonna pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one other thing for California. Then there's an Oregon-based group that wants to, I think, do $30K. Give them a loan for $30K, or up to $30K in the state of Oregon, which is, again, we're giving everything away. Where are all these loans going to come from? If they tell them they don't have to pay it, where's all that going to? How are they paying all that? Through our taxes, through state taxes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen, and that's how they're going to pay for any of this stuff.
And they don't want you to believe that. But it's true. Just like with student loans, which the Supreme Court just shut down a second time. But you can't do it. Like, you can't just force all this stuff on the American people to give other people free stuff. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to find a way to get all this stuff passed, give these illegals all this free stuff, and all the other free things that they're giving out to non-American citizens but are spending our money, sending it overseas, whatever. The reason that they want to raise our taxes is to pay for all of that. it's not just to raise taxes because we need more money for the government. We have plenty of money because they print too much. But all they're doing is just making it to where we need to pay more.
Kamala even said, too, she wants to raise corporate taxes, I think, to like 28% or something like that. So you want to essentially tax over a quarter of corporations just on taxes. So how much of that, how much of the employment is going to be killed? How much of, supply chain is going to be killed for these people and for these businesses? I think she even said something about unrealized gains on property or something like that, too.
It would actually,
on that one, so I don't want to.
It would be the unrealized gains tax would be on your investments in the stock market. On if you have a Roth IRA, which now if she does that, I'm not gonna even start one, because the thing is, at 25% per year of stuff that you haven't even received yet, you better hope that you're hitting at least 30% of a profit rate each year. They're just going to be literally stealing your money the entire time that you hadn't even made yet. And it's retarded to tax money that.
And then by the time you retire, you don't have anything.
Yeah, and it's probably their point. What they say, let them have bread or whatever. Like Klaus Schwab.
The next thing, too. The next thing with all the illegal stuff, too. Aurora, Colorado. Let's talk about that for a second. Grays, I don't know how much you've seen. I just found out about this stuff recently, too. I feel like a lot of people are. It's crazy. They're taking over this. Basically, they're scout about it, not on Fox. I think. About it.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. We had some technical difficulties, but I think we're good for right now. I know we were talking about the Aurora, Colorado stuff with the Venezuelan illegal immigrants there taking over the town and stuff. Sam, you were talking about that, so I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Pretty much, I think you have the governor of Colorado, who, again, complete lefty, basically said, it's just your imagination. Literally said imagination, as a town in his state, a city in his state is being completely overrun and just rampant with crime, getting apartment buildings taken over, property vandalized. This is absurd, it's just blatant gaslighting. This is gaslighting in its highest form. How do these people get away with it?
And you said that he's saying that it's not happening, it's imaginary, that
Pretty much. There's a few articles about it now. If you look up Colorado governor imagination, you'll find it. He's said it. I think he's finally starting to recognize it a little bit, but just the fact that it just was imagination was his first answer, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, it blows my mind too. It's like when they tried to say that Antifa wasn't real back after the 2020 riots, and I mean, man, they don't care about violence. They're not against it, especially if it goes, against our party, or an assassination attempt against Trump, where they're some of them saying, shouldn't have missed. They don't have a problem with it. Or just let it happen.
Or the various indictments. And speaking of indictments, Jack Smith opened up another one. I don't even know what this indictment is. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I have no idea what this one is. Do you know what's going on with this? Because I don't know. It's something from 2020. Something happened again. I don't know.
There's so many different cases, it's hard to keep up with exactly what each case was about, so I can't remember what Jack Smith was indicting him on in the first place. Maybe it was January 6th. I don't know. But what I do know is that the indictment he did at first failed. So, they basically told him you can't try this case. So what he did is he went to a judge that he's actually friends with and refiled it with basically the same charges, but he just tried to add a couple of little tiny things in there to make it more than the original one, and went to his little buddy who's a judge, which the way the judicial system should work, he should have to recuse himself from the case. One of them should. But the Democrats probably won't allow that to happen. They'll let their little buddy system run it through, and we'll see what happens.
It's just amazing to me now, especially this election. I said this last time, and I'll say this again, that this is certainly an election that, at least in our lifetime, we're going to always remember, just because, and I'm not going to go into the stakes of it. I'm not going to go into the mongering of it, but just of how high profile all of this is. You can't get away from it. It is literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And just to think, 8 years ago, Trump first getting elected into office, I don't think anyone would have thought that this was going to happen. Anything like this, No, it's crazy.
About 30 things they've tried to do to stop Trump had never happened in America before until now. And they're just basically ripping up the Constitution and saying, we're going to do what we want to do. Screw your judicial system. We're also going to try to rig the Supreme Court next chance we get. They don't care about how the law is actually supposed to work. And
although it gives me a little bit of hope, because now you even have Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, admitting to censoring information on behalf of the Biden administration. Mm-hmm. Admitted to it. He said he did it. And I think the Biden-Harris administration even pressured him a little bit.
I'm sure certainly they did.
Some form of the government pressured him to censor information during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And
the laptop as well. 2020 during the election cycle.
Even then, there was a poll not that long ago, or a study, that most Democrat voters, I don't even think, knew about the laptop.
Yeah, that's true. And that they would have changed their vote.
They would have changed their vote if they had known otherwise. It's the same thing now with Biden voters and Kamala policies. A lot of the voters don't know how radical she is. That she supported the Green New Deal, wanted to get gut police funding, supported abolishing ICE, fracking, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely, it's insane. It's just not even, I don't even know if it's just gaslighting or just straight up lying. I don't know what this is.
It's probably a little bit of both. They're good at both.
It just makes you wonder exactly what's going to happen. And if you want my 2 cents on it, for whatever reason you would want that, between what's going on right now, I think it's hard to trust polls. Like you said, there's always margins of error. There's always discrepancies. There's a lot going on with Trump, just as much as there is going on with Kamala Harris. There's just as much. But although, if we were still in the stage of Biden before Biden dropped out, I would have said this would have been a landslide with Trump. He'd be cleaning over 300 electoral votes easily.
Yeah, and he should, realistically. Kamala Harris is a terrible candidate. She got, I think by the time she dropped out, she had less than 2% or something in 2020. Nobody wanted her then. She has the lowest approval rating of any vice president in modern history. And yet, now all of a sudden she's a Democrat sweetheart. That's what you can do with a political and a media machine and, big donors and the people who run the country behind the scenes. When they're all on your side, it can make the worst candidate look like the best president.
What's even weird, and they're just, I think, trying to win with memes. They're doing, I don't think the Kamala's brat thing is still a thing now, but you had doing webinars like White Dudes for Harris.
Yeah.
That was a big one. Where
There's
even
a hotties
Tim Walz,
for Harris.
before he was selected as the VP pick, said everybody's socialism is just another person's neighborliness or something like that. Said that. He was on that call. Did they do like a Swifties for Kamala thing too?
I think so.
They did. They're doing either did that or doing that, and next they're doing a cooking with Kamala. There's just like celebrities and chefs. I think they had a comedians for Kamala thing too. Even had Jimmy Kimmel joining with Adam Schiff, who's a current congressman in California and the candidate and the Democrat candidate for Senate in the state, teaming up to try to help Jackie Rosen in Nevada, because Nevada's in play for Trump now, and they have a Senate race going on. It's just one. They just have one giant machine.
Yep.
Just rolling, and they're all ready to drop at a moment's notice to, do something for the party, and you don't tote the party line or you break away from them. They ostracize you. That's what happened with RFK. That's what happened with Tulsi Gabbard. That's what happened with a state senator in Nebraska around the Omaha area. Omaha's like the one place in Nebraska where a Nebraska can split out their electoral votes. And that's how Democrats get one vote from Nebraska, is because they can split it out. And Omaha's a very kind of liberal part of Nebraska. And he broke away from the Democrat Party because he's very pro-life. And the party wouldn't support him anymore. Party was doing everything they could to not do anything with him anymore. He said, you know what, I'm leaving. The same thing just happened today with a Texas state rep. She's leaving the Democrat Party today too. She joined to be a Republican and was hanging out with Greg Abbott.
Oh wow.
That just happened today. Because she it's the gender surgeries for minors. That's where she kind of drew her line.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these Democrats that are starting to draw the line. Before the end of last year, I think it was the mayor of Dallas. He switched to a Republican too. Once you do one thing that doesn't completely fall all in line with the current party, they're going to ostracize you. So it just makes me wonder, yes, there's probably been some Republicans that have switched from Trump to Democrat. But even then, I've seen videos where it's, I've voted for Nikki Haley, but now I'm going to vote for Trump. They were letting Democrats change their voter registration at voting locations to be able to vote in the primaries.
Yeah.
So it's not that much of a stretch to say that some Democrats maybe voted and became Republicans just to vote for Nikki Haley, just to get rid of Donald Trump. And then they would have still voted for Joe Biden. Again, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial, but it's not that far off to say.
I think it did happen. There's Democrats, like in Pennsylvania, where it's open primary, so they were voting. They would switch over and just vote for Nikki Haley. For that to try to primary Trump in Pennsylvania. But
actually, speaking of Pennsylvania, one person I do want to bring up real quick is Scott Pressler. That man is on a grind.
Yeah.
He was on a grind in Pennsylvania, and he even started tweeting out, actually, whenever RFK dropped out. He extended an olive branch and said, anyone in RFK's staff or on his campaign or something, send me your resume. I want you guys to come work.
Yeah.
Which, you got to give it to that guy, man. He is grinding everything out,
He's been doing that for a lot of different states over like the last 2 years or so. He's done a lot of work, and it may not sound that important, but we now lead the Democrats. There's more registered Republicans in Pennsylvania than there are Democrats now. A lot of that thanks to him.
But also at the same time, half the battle is voter registration, certainly, but the other half is making sure that there is turnout. the older people are going to turn out. Younger people around our age range, mid-20s, even younger, the turnout for us isn't as high.
Right.
Because we're probably maybe not even registered to vote, or we just don't care enough to vote. Which that certainly has to change. There's got to be an incentive or something to have us go out and vote.
I agree. Well, we're gonna take a little commercial break here, and I think Sam might need to go. He's got to travel to West Virginia today, but it's always nice to have him on, and I appreciate you helping me out with this one since Harrison couldn't do it.
You know what? I wouldn't say that I helped out too much. Graves has been in this a little longer than I have. I've been working in the political field, only a couple years now. And, for many people that may not know, Graves and I lived together too.
Yeah, for about half a year.
Yeah, we go back just a little bit now. Graves, we've known each other almost a couple years now. 2 years, actually. Yeah, 2 years.
Been a little bit more than 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, more than 2 years. We've known each other now. But I actually will go ahead and sign off and give a formal sign off to everyone here on the Conservative Colonel podcast. Graves, again, thank you for reaching out and having me come back on. Apparently, I guess you guys liked me enough last time. I don't know why. Got my insight, gave my 2 cents, but it's always great to talk politics with someone I consider family. Graves is my brother, 100%.
Same.
I missed him to death up here, up north. I got to come back to the south.
That's right.
And get something done. That'll happen before too long. I'll be back down that way for sure.
For sure.
But Graves, again, thank you so much. I want to go ahead and sign off. Hopefully you have me back on again at some point and we'll rip it up.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe next couple of weeks.
All right, let's do it. I'm in.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.
All right, we are back. I want to, give another shout out to Sam. Thanks for coming on today. It's always great to have him. Like he said, we've been buddies for over 2 years now, and we lived in Las Vegas together, worked together, gone on vacation together. He's come down to Mississippi before. He's a good guy. Hopefully Harrison doesn't kill me. I forgot to mention to everybody that you can find the Conservative Colonel podcast on pretty much any platform that you want to find it. Spotify, it comes out on YouTube on Tuesdays. Today's episode on the audio version will be a day delayed compared to usual, but Harrison had some things to do. But you can find us on Spotify, YouTube next week, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, which is the main platform. There's plenty of more, and I'll tell you where you can find the rest of those is on the Conservative Colonel website, conservativecolonel.com. There's a lot of good stuff on there, some history. You can find out more about Harrison. It may have some merch up there now, but the best way that you can find that out and our other platforms is to go to conservativecolonel.com. So, the last thing I want to talk about on this episode, just to wrap it up, is the fact that I mentioned earlier we sent $239 million on accident to the Taliban. I don't know how that happens. Swayze, go. Dog trying to bark at kids coming home from school. But I don't know how you accidentally send $239 million to the Taliban. It's all this money that we've been printing is why we have inflation too. It's not because of price gouging or corporate greed. It has nothing to do with that. It's all the money they've printed, trillions of dollars that we did not already have in the monetary system. They've sent a lot of it overseas, 200 billion or billion with a B or so to Ukraine. A couple billion to Israel and Gaza relief. Not to mention the money they just sent to the Taliban on accident. We have homeless veterans. Those are the most important homeless people that we need to help. There's other homeless people that don't want to be homeless. There are some homeless people that you literally cannot help. I've offered jobs to some. Some people just don't want to work. But for the people that want help and want out of that and have served our country, we need to be helping them with this money. If you're going to, Swayze, go. If you're going to print all this money, help our American citizens. We are struggling right now. Thanks to the inflation that y'all have caused, groceries up 30%, maybe more. It depends on what you're looking at, but overall it's about 30%. Gas is up about 60%. It was about 100-something% a couple years ago. That all happened under them when they started printing and sending all this money. And I mentioned it, a $25,000 grant to go toward the house. Every house in America just went up $25,000. These people are so irresponsible, and they do not care about you. If they cared about you, they'd be going toward the homeless. They'd be, finding ways to make a new system that gets homeless people off the streets and gets them jobs and housing. And no, I don't mean free housing. There are things in place with them extra money, but they would rather send it other places and spend it on things that's going to end up coming back to their pockets, which is what happens. Harry Truman said that the only way you can get rich in politics is if you're a crook. Or I think his exact words were, show me somebody who got richer in politics and I'll show you a crook. And that's what every single Democrat does. Obama, his went up like $100 million in net worth when he was in office. Bill Clinton went up like $150 million when he was in office. Biden, the numbers aren't there yet, but we already know with their overseas accounts and their fake companies that they have and stuff, that he's made money. Donald Trump, guess what, liberals? He lost money while he was in office. And he didn't even take a salary as president. He gave historic HBCU funding. He lowered our taxes. No, not only for the top. Go do your research. Stop saying it was only for the 1%. It wasn't. Because under his administration, by the time that COVID hit, and that's not his fault. Y'all can stop blaming him on that. His economy was so good that people, I think it was like $6,000 a month, people were richer because the wages were up. The inflation stayed below 2% every single year he was in office. He was doing a lot of things, deregulating. Get off of the couch. Deregulating everything. And we were all more wealthy because of that. Under Biden and them, it's about $3,500 or maybe $5,000 a month less rich than we were under Trump. You have literally lost thousands of dollars a month thanks to them, and it's because they spend it and they spend it. They don't care. They're going to print it and spend it, and they're not going to spend it on us. And that's just something I've wanted to rant about for a while. It is crazy to me that they send all this money overseas. And I know I keep saying it, but it really just blows my mind. And it kind of hurts, that America's supposed to be this place, not just for, immigration and stuff. Yeah, we're supposed to be a nation of immigrants. We kind of are anyway. But not free stuff. You don't have to give out all this free stuff. When they started the welfare system, that killed everything. I mean, you've seen it in the black community. I mean, let's be honest. When that welfare system started, I'm not going to say what LBJ said, but he said he was going to have them voting for about 200 years for Democrats. And when they started doing that and they had welfare, the communities now don't have as many jobs because they're incentivized to not work. And that's not a racist thing to say. When you put into place a system that incentivizes you to stay at home and to not work and to never make anything of yourself and to just live off of the government, you're gonna hurt communities. That is literally what. I mean, it's common sense. You give out free stuff, they have no reason to go to work. Now, what we should do, keep a welfare system, but you have to have a part-time job at least. I mean, keep the bar low, 10, 15 hours a week just to get that welfare money. But they have to have a job, and then if they quit that job, sorry. Or if you get fired, tough luck. Just like for the rest of us. If we get fired, tough luck. You got to find a new job. You don't get the benefits that company may have offered you. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed that would help our economy, would help our homeless people. And we got to get the government down, man. It's got to get smaller in size. We got to stop printing money and sending money overseas. But that's about all I had. I mentioned it earlier, and that's a topic that's really important to me. It's made it almost unaffordable for someone my age to live unless you're making $120,000 a year. I mean, even if you are now, you still may not be able to get a house with $120,000 thanks to all this. So, with my generation spending and creating all this money and sending it overseas and not helping us and what they're doing to hurt the economy in general, it's very important. I'll remind everybody, get out there and vote. Tell your friends to vote. Go do research. Don't just listen to what we're saying. I've got stuff to back up everything I've said, but go do your own research. If you don't want to vote for Trump, okay. I can't tell you who to vote for. But no matter what, the young people of this generation and the one that's coming up after us are getting more involved in politics. We need to be more involved. We've got to really encourage our friends to pay attention to this more, because I know politics can be a headache, but if you don't pay attention and do your research and really know what's going on, you're not going to know how we got 20 years down the road, how we got to where we are then. What happened to America? Well, we told y'all the whole time. So do your own research, volunteer in your hometown, talk to your friends, encourage them to do something. Come work for me. Come to Wisconsin. I'll be up there. We're going to be doing Trump doors until the election starting next week. Come to Wisconsin. Give me a call. Do something, and let's make sure we win this election. It's going to be a really important one. Every year they say it's the most important, because each year is, but right now we're really in a moment in history that it's either going to go one way or the other way, and the other way is communism. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. I want to thank Sam again. Thanks, Harrison, for letting me host. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and hopefully I'll be back soon, but it may be after the election. Everybody have a good day. Appreciate you for checking in, tuning in. Go check out our website. I hope you all have a great day. God bless America. God bless Mississippi. And Donald Trump 2024.